The recruitment hall was bright, cold, and full of noise. Rows of young hopefuls stood in perfect lines, eyes forward, shoulders straight. They wore their best uniforms, some even shining their boots twice before entering. Today was the day this draft board would choose the next wave of soldiers for Earth's defense. Each name was called out loud. Mark Henson. Accepted. Cheers. Lara Chun. Accepted. More cheers. Every acceptance brought claps on the back, smiles, and even tears from families watching from the gallery. Then came his turn. Elias Kane, the officer, didn't even look up. His hand moved lazily to the big red stamp. Rejected. The sound of the stamp echoed louder than the cheers. A wave of whispers rose instantly from the crowd. Too weak. Not fit for war. Better off farming. Elias stood still for a moment. His face was calm, but inside, something sharp twisted in his chest. He wanted to ask why. He wanted to shout that they were wrong. But he didn't. He simply turned, walked out, and pushed open the heavy doors. Outside, rain poured down in sheets, soaking him in seconds. He didn't care. His boots splashed through puddles as he moved without direction. The streets were almost empty. Only the glow of neon signs and the hiss of passing hovercars kept him company. By the time he reached his small apartment, his uniform was dripping. He hung it on the wall, sat down, and stared at the desk in front of him, his hands clenched into fists. The draft had been his only chance. Without it, he was nothing. That night, sleep wouldn't come. He sat at his old radio receiver, just spinning the dial, listening to static. Sometimes he caught distant stations' news, music, chatter from cargo pilots. Then it happened. A sharp crack in the signal, a burst of numbers. Then a voice low, urgent and coded. Signal route 7. Coordinates classified. Fleet command authorization required. Elias froze. This wasn't normal traffic. His heart pounded as he twisted the knobs carefully, locking on to the transmission. Black command to Ghost Wing. Supply run confirmed. Repeat, supply run confirmed. Departure at 0300. All ships cleared for Phantom Protocol. He didn't know what Phantom Protocol was, but he knew the name Ghost Wing. It was a rumor, a ghost story told in military bars. A fleet that didn't officially exist. Some said they fought battles no one else could survive. Others said they were Earth's last weapon. The transmission was meant for someone else, with clearance. But it had landed on his receiver. He wrote down every word, every coordinate, every code. Then he sat there in the dim light, staring at the paper. If this was real, it was something far beyond the public military. And if it wasn't, well, it didn't matter. He had nothing left to lose. The rain still fell outside. The clock ticked. Past midnight. Finally, Elias stood. His mind was made up. He grabbed his jacket, his boots, and an old backpack. Inside, he stuffed rations, water, a small knife, and the paper with the coordinates. If the draft wouldn't have him, then fine. But he would make himself part of something greater, even if it meant breaking the law. He stepped out into the rain again, this time with purpose. The city's skyline glowed faintly under the storm, and far above it, the stars peeked through gaps in the clouds. Somewhere out there, Ghost Wing was waiting. Somewhere out there, the fleet was gathering. Elias didn't know if he'd be welcome. He didn't know if they'd shoot him on sight. But one thing was certain. He wouldn't be forgotten again. As he walked into the night, the coded voice still echoed in his mind. Departure at 0300. He had less than 3 hours to find the launch site. And beat. From the shadows of a nearby alley, a pair of eyes followed him. Someone else had heard the transmission, and they weren't going to let him reach the fleet alone. The small shack he called home was silent. except for the hum of his old receiver. It was a battered piece of tech, a relic from his late father's service days. Normally, it only picked up news channels and local chatter. But tonight, something different pulsed through the air. A strange tone cut the static 3 short beeps, too long. He froze. That was no civilian frequency. The voice that followed was cold, urgent, and clipped. Shadow Fleet Command. All units, prepare for face dawn. Coordinates follow. He leaned forward, scribbling the numbers on a scrap of paper. They weren't anywhere near military bases. In fact, he recognized the location. It was deep beyond regulated space. A place civilians weren't supposed to go. The voice continued, black entry only. Identification protocols. Obsidian 3-0. No broadcasting. And then, silence. He stared at the paper in his hand. His heart pounded. The Shadow Fleet he had heard rumors about them for years. Some said it was Earth's most secret and powerful fleet, built for wars no one dared speak of. Others claimed it was just a myth, but those coordinates, they were real. The rain outside had stopped, but his mind was racing too fast to notice. All his life, he had been told he wasn't good enough. Too weak, too slow, no place in Earth's defense forces. But now he had something no one else did. Away in that by morning, he had made his choice. He packed only the essentials, rations, a worn photo of his parents, and a small combat knife. His transport was an old cargo hauler he had been repairing for months. It wasn't fast, but it could get him off-world without triggering too much attention. He moved quickly, avoiding main spaceports. If the signal was meant for classified ears, someone would be tracking it. The launch was rough. The hauler rattled and groaned, but it held together. Soon, the gray skies of Earth gave way to the black ocean of space. Stars stretched out in all directions, but his eyes were locked on the navigation screen, where the coordinates blinked like a heartbeat. Days passed. He slept in short bursts, waking to check his scanners. The deeper he went, the emptier space became. No trade lanes, no patrols, just cold silence. But then, on the third night, his sensors picked up a faint distortion ahead. It wasn't on any chart. He took the hauler closer. The distortion shimmered like heat haze in the void. And then his breath caught. Out of the black, a massive shape emerged. It was unlike any warship he had ever seen, sleek, angular, and completely black, its hull drinking in starlight. There were no markings, no lights. It looked almost like a shadow given form. He whispered to himself, "Shadow Fleet." Before he could react, his comms burst to life. "Unidentified vessel. You are in restricted space. Transmit identification, or be destroyed." He swallowed hard. He had no clearance, no codes, except the one phrase he had overheard. His voice shook, "Obsidian 3-0." A pause. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "Stand by." His palms were sweating as he waited. The massive ship turned toward him, its hull panels shifting, revealing hidden weapons. One shot from those cannons, and his hauler would be nothing but dust. Finally, the voice came again. "Docking clearance granted. You will be escorted. Any deviation will result in termination." A small escort craft locked onto his ship and guided him toward the shadowy giant. He couldn't help but think they had rejected him from the draft. They had told him he was worthless. But now, he was about to step inside the most dangerous fleet in human history. And he had no idea what awaited him. End beat. The hangar doors opened, swallowing his ship into darkness. Somewhere inside that void, something was watching him. The hangar was silent. No chatter of workers. No sound of drills or welding. Only the low, steady hum of power running through the walls. He stepped inside slowly, boots clicking on the smooth metal floor. Then he saw them, rows and rows of warships. But not like the ones he had seen in military broadcasts. These ships were sleeker, darker, sharper. They looked like shadows given shapeships built for speed, for silent strikes, for wars that were never meant to be reported in the news. Each one had markings, but not the Earth Defense emblem. Instead, there was a symbol he didn't recognize, a silver circle with a black star at its center. He walked closer, brushing his fingers along the cold hull of the nearest ship. It felt alive, almost like it was aware of him. A voice echoed from above, "You're not supposed to be here." He froze. From the upper platform, a tall woman in a black officer's coat was looking down at him. Her eyes were like steel. Her steps were slow as she descended the stairs. "Name?" she demanded. He hesitated. Giving his name could mean arrest or worse. But something told him lying wouldn't work. He gave it. The woman's expression didn't change. She walked around him, studying him like she was deciding whether to throw him out or keep him. "You were rejected from the draft," she said flatly. "No combat record, no pilot's license, no command training. Yet you found your way here." He stayed silent. She stopped in front of him. "Do you even know where you are?" He glanced at the ships. A fleet base, but not an official one. Her lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile. "Correct. This fleet does not exist in government records. It answers to no council, no committee, not even the president. It was built for one purpose. When Earth's enemies think they have won, this fleet will make sure they regret it." He felt a rush in his chest. This was what the transmission was about. This was the secret they didn't want anyone to know. "But why are you telling me this?" he asked. The woman looked at him for a long time before replying. "Because the fleet is missing something, and I think you have it." He frowned. "I told you I'm not a soldier." She stepped closer, her voice low. "The strongest commanders aren't always the best fighters. They're the ones who think differently, who don't follow the same rules everyone else does." Before he could reply, the lights in the hangar flickered red. An alarm blared. The woman's eyes snapped to the nearest console. "We've been found. Move." He didn't even have time to ask who "we" was. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a lift at the far end of the hangar. Above them, the massive hangar doors began to open, revealing the blackness of space. Ships powered up one by one, their engines glowing faint blue. Crew members in dark uniforms rushed aboard. The woman shoved him inside the lift. "If you want to survive, you're coming with me." He glanced back once more at the endless rows of shadow ships. Whatever this fleet was, it was about to go to war. And beat. As the lift doors closed, he felt the floor shake. Something outside was coming, and it wasn't friendly. The doors of the simulator room hissed open, and he stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone. The walls curved around him like the inside of a battleship's bridge, but this was only a training chamber. At the center stood a control seat surrounded by glowing panels, each alive with alien symbols and human modifications. A tall woman in a dark commander's uniform stood near the controls. Her hair was silver, her eyes sharp as blades. "You're the one they said wasn't fit for war," she said without looking up from the panel. He stayed silent. "Good," she continued. "You might actually survive this test." The hatch sealed behind him with a deep clang. The lights dimmed, and a holographic view of space unfolded around him, massive enemy warships bristling, with weapons closing in fast. A voice spoke through the overhead speakers. "Scenario: fleet outnumbered 3-1. Defend Earth's core stations. Begin." His hands hovered over the controls. Every instinct screamed to start firing, but He remembered what the engineers had told him. Brute force wasn't the key here. Timing was. The enemy ships split into two wings, trying to flank. Instead of chasing them, he pulled his fleet back into a tight defensive arc. The simulated captains hesitated, unsure of his move. Then he issued an unexpected order. All ships reverse. Thrust. Use asteroid field for cover. The alien woman raised an eyebrow. No rookie thought like that. In the simulation, the asteroids became shields, scattering enemy fire. His smaller ships darted between them, striking at weak points. One enemy cruiser exploded in a burst of light. Another lost shields and drifted helplessly. But then the voice announced, "New threat detected. Enemy supercarrier entering the battle." The hologram shifted, and there it was, a massive silhouette, blotting out the stars. His fleet's weapons barely scratched its armor. He had one chance. He ordered all ships to aim at a specific point near the carrier's midsection. The captains hesitated. It was shielded. But he knew the truth. The shield generators had to vent heat every 40 seconds. If they hit during that exact moment, they could breach. They waited. 39 seconds. 40. "Fire everything," he commanded. A blinding volley tore through the carrier's shield gap. The explosion lit up the simulation like a new sun. The enemy flagship broke apart, scattering debris into the void. Silence filled the room. The hologram faded, and the lights returned. The woman finally spoke. "You just defeated an enemy that destroys whole fleets." She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You weren't rejected because you're weak. You were rejected because they didn't want you here." He frowned. "Why?" She leaned in, her voice low. "Because some people in power are afraid of commanders they can't control." The hatch opened again, but this time, instead of dismissal, she said, "Report to Hangar 7 tomorrow. You have a fleet to meet." End beat. As he left the simulator, he realized he wasn't just part of a secret fleet now. He was being prepared to lead it. And someone, somewhere, was already plotting against him. The hangar was silent except for the hum of the flight's engines. The young man, once rejected by Earth's draft, now stood in the command bay, staring at the tactical map. Red dots swung toward their position. The enemy was coming fast. Admiral Varick, the grizzled officer who had trained him for months, stepped up beside him. "This is it. No simulations. No do-overs. You make the wrong call, and the fleet dies." His palms were sweating. Every lesson, every drill, every late-night strategy session, it all came rushing back. This was not a test. This was war. The communications officer spoke, voice tense. "Sir, the enemy fleet has deployed something. Massive. It's not on any of our records." The hologram shifted, revealing a towering alien battleship, bristling with weapons. It was easily 3 times the size of their largest carrier. Varick's jaw tightened. "That's the Dreckner flagship. Only rumors said it was real. It's destroyed entire colonies before." The crew looked to the young commander. Some doubted him still. He had never fought a real battle. But when he spoke, his voice was calm, clear. "Signal the fleet. Formation Delta 7. Keep the carriers behind the asteroid field. Frigates will draw them in." Varick frowned. "That's a trap." "Yes," the young man said quietly. "For them." The order went out. Frigates moved forward, firing in quick bursts, then retreating as if in panic. The alien flagship advanced, exactly as predicted. Inside the asteroid field, dozens of camouflaged strike ships waited silent, invisible. When the alien flagship crossed the marker point, the young commander gave the signal. Now. From the shadows, hidden railguns roared. Missiles streaked. Out. The flagship's shields flared bright under the sudden assault. The alien admiral's voice cut through on an open channel. deep and mocking. A clever trick, but not enough. The flagship turned, its main cannon charging a weapon it could vaporize an entire carrier in one blast. Evasive, Varric shouted, but the young commander shook his head. Hold position. The crew looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. The alien cannon fired only to hit. Nothing. The young man had anticipated the exact angle and timed a massive asteroid detonation seconds earlier. The blast wave shoved the flagship off its firing path, the deadly beam slicing harmlessly into space. Strike wings now. Dozens of human ships surged forward, hammering the flagship's exposed flank. The alien vessel shuddered, explosions ripping through its hull. When the battle ended, the enemy fleet was broken. The flagship, once a legend of destruction, drifted in silence. In the command bay, Admiral Varric turned to him slowly. For the first time, the old soldier smiled. You're not just fit for the fleet, you were born to command it. And beat. Far away, in the shadows of deep space, another alien commander watched the battle recording. He leaned forward, his expression dark. So, the boy is real. This changes everything. The blackness of space stretched endlessly before them. No stars twinkled here, only the cold shadows of the enemy's armada. Hundreds of alien warships formed a wall of death, their weapons glowing with power. The bridge of the Iron Resolve was silent. Everyone's eyes were on him. The man who had once been rejected by the draft, the man they now called Commander. Status? He asked quietly. Shields are at full. All weapons primed, his tactical officer replied. He looked at the massive fleet ahead. They outnumbered his ships 5-1. The enemy's flagship sat in the center, like a predator waiting for prey. He could almost feel their commander watching him, certain of victory. But the humans had not come to lose. Bring up the Nova Core, he ordered. Gasps filled the bridge. The Nova Core was humanity's most dangerous weapon, a device so powerful it could turn a planet into dust. It had never been used in a real battle until now. The crew moved with urgency, their fear mixing with determination. Deep inside the ship, the Nova Core's energy chamber began to hum. Lights flickered. The decked VIBRATED the enemy fleet began to move forward, their weapons locking onto the Iron Resolve. Commander, incoming fire. He didn't flinch. Hold position. The first wave of alien missiles streaked toward them, but his fleet's defensive screen lit up, intercepting most of them. Some still hit, shaking the ship violently. Shields at 78%. Steady, he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold steel. The enemy flagship's massive cannon began to charge, glowing brighter and brighter. It was preparing a shot that could tear his ship apart in one strike. His second in command turned to him. If we wait any longer, we'll be destroyed. He nodded slowly. Then let's not wait. With one sharp motion, he slammed his hand down on the console. Fire the Nova Core. A deep rumble shook the ship as the Nova Core unleashed its energy. A sphere of blinding white light burst from the Iron Resolve, expanding outward at impossible speed. It wasn't just an explosion, it was a wave of destruction. Alien shields shattered instantly. Enemy ships were swallowed whole, their metal, hulls melting before they could even fire back. The flagship tried to activate an emergency jump, but the wave reached it first. In seconds, the entire alien armada was gone, reduced to drifting ash and twisted debris. Silence returned to space. Crew stared at the view screen in shock. The battlefield that had been filled with hundreds of ships was now empty. Only the Iron Resolve and its surviving escort ships remained. They had done it. The commander leaned back in his chair. He thought of the day he had been rejected, of the rain falling on his face, of the voices saying he was too weak. He thought of the signal he had followed, the risks he had taken, and the battles they had survived. Now, the galaxy would know he was not just fit for war. He was the man who had saved Earth. His communications officer turned. "Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting immediate contact." He smirked. "Let them wait. We have our own message to send first." He stood, looking at his crew, the men and women who had followed him through hell. "Signal every human world," he said. "Tell them we are safe. Tell them we are stronger than ever." The crew erupted in cheers, but as the sound filled the bridge, he turned to the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, other enemies would hear what happened today. Some would fear. Some would plan revenge. He welcomed it, because now the rejected man commanded the deadliest fleet in the galaxy. And this was only the beginning.